Another participant in the process is the prosecutor. It educates the Aboriginal community to hear the perspective of the police, and it ensures that the broader community's values are represented in the sentence. Often the prosecutor is there to look after the victim's interests, as well as putting forward the need for punishment as part of the sentence. This provides a balance to the circle.
Perhaps the most significant reason why I believe circle sentencing works so effectively is because it is so unique. This is not a process that any of the defendants, or other participants for that matter, is conditioned to or has an expectation as to what the possible results may be. It truly is uncharted waters. From my perspective, the evidence is indisputable that the offender themselves appears on each occasion at the commencement of the circle court to be completely exposed. They very quickly become aware that they are no longer afforded the luxury of being shielded from criticism, as is often the case in the traditional court setting. They very quickly become aware that they are being held to account not only by the traditional adversary, that is me, representing the police force, but they are being held accountable in real time by the victims and the elders, most of whom are well known by the offender. So they are very unsettled very quickly for all of those reasons. Now, the other important thing that I've always maintained is the key to success in circle sentencing is the sanctions imposed by this court must be coupled with support. Clearly, in the case of the video scenes you've seen, the victim is accompanied by a support person, has the opportunity to air their grievances, and is also supported and somewhat protected by myself. We have the sanctions, that is clear, but there is undeniable support for the offender as well. So whilst the offender is very unsettled by the experience of being held to account, the circle members, elders especially, make it very clear to the offender that they understand and that they are there to help break this cycle of offending and will promote rehabilitation as part of the sentencing process. The offenders, therefore, can expect a fair but not lenient sentence. There is no doubt about that. History of the sentences of this court makes that very clear. However, they can also look forward to the support of the elders and the infrastructure within the judicial system, such as rehabilitation mechanisms, to assist them in being perhaps more confident and motivated than ever in serving the sentence without blemish, but most importantly in turning their lives around. It is all about reducing offending. If we can do this, we've all won.
I think Aboriginal communities will say that circle sentencing works because it restores respect for the elders in the community, respect which they lost since colonisation. They also get to experience that sentencing is not an easy task and that careful consideration is required to balance punishment, prevention, healing and justice being seen to be done. They develop a confidence in the process of justice, but equally police and magistrate develop a confidence in the ability of elders to manage the difficulties facing offending behaviour and offenders.
Circle sentencing works because of the relationships between the elders and the offender. For it to work, you've got to have respect in the circle. The offender has to have respect for all of the elders, and most importantly, the offender must have trust in the elders chosen for their circle. You need to choose particular elders for each individual case. This is very important. The caring and sharing, the most important part of our culture, is important in the success of the circle. The elders know about this, and also the sharing of knowledge and wisdom. It's part of our culture. The elders have walked the talk, they've been there and they've done that. The time factor, the discussions can go on for 3 hours, and that's really good. You've got to get to the art of things. Another reason why circle sentencing is successful is that there is support long after circle from the elders. It's an ongoing thing. It doesn't stop at the courthouse. Another really good thing about circle sentencing is that the offender regains their self-respect. It is important. It is a real Koori court because of the language and the culture. the magistrate is really important. If the magistrate lets elders do the talking, they become confident and they start to value themselves again, and they start to feel good in the community. Another thing is the educational thing. Previously you heard that someone got locked up and you said poor so-and-so got locked up by the police, and you always blame the police. But with Circle you learn about the seriousness of the offence, the impact on the victim, so they are getting out in the community and holding up the fort for the system. It is really empowering for them. There was one case where the mother came as a support person for the offender, and she read the facts and the criminal record, and she was shocked to find out that he had been in prison already and that he has done so many bad things. So circle sentencing always lets everyone know what's really going on. Circle sentencing empowers our community and revives our culture, and people feel proud again.
Well, I feel that circle sentencing works because the offenders, when they come to the circle, they feel more comfortable and they feel that they're able to talk to people because it's their own kind. They still feel, from way back that you don't get a fair trial in a white man's court in here. Yeah, and so what I'm trying to say here is that these people, when they come to us, they feel at home. They feel here, they feel... And on many occasions, we know the offenders' families, their uncles, and I think this is where the shame factor comes in, is that we can say to them, how would your dad feel if we were alive today and found you were stealing cars? What did he say to you? Or how would you feel fronting him? And that's called, we call that the shame job, you know. And I do believe that some of the offenders think by coming before the elders they're going to get it because they're the same mob, they're going to get an easy go. But it's not that way. It's not the way at all. It's not an easy road. I think on a couple of times I think we've been deemed to be too hard rather than too lenient. So so it's not a good trot for you if you come here.
Well, I believe circle sentencing works because of the elders. And the elders, I'll just put it another way, the elders know the young people in our community. And we know for a fact that 9 times out of 10 those young ones are not given a chance the way they do when they're in circle. Because a regular court doesn't give them that opportunity to speak up for themselves or give any background or anything. The project officer, in my opinion, is the most important person in our circle, putting our circle together. That project officer has to be somebody, a local person that knows the factions in the community. In our case, there's 2 Aboriginal missions in our area, so that project officer knows the missions, and she knows who to go to, who not to go to, so that there's no friction or anything when she's putting the elders together for the circle. Yeah, well, the shaming is we design it in our own little way, in our Aboriginal way, that those little babies, they know when we speak to them, they can't lie to us, and if they do, well, it'll be the shame job. Then they've got to sit there and be pulled up in front of us for lying. So, because they respect us so much, and we've always looked after them and the caring and sharing part of it, that's what brings out the shame. And that's they would rather go to court than come before the elders because they know for a fact that they're not going to get away lightly. The victim, that victim, whether it's a man or a woman, they like to come to circle because then they get a chance to sit there and say what they want to say to that perpetrator without having any fear of, retaliation from that perpetrator. And they get to say it in front of the elders. And not only that, the judge and the prosecutors are sitting there listening. so they can say, you know, speak their mind straight out, and that just gives them such a relief to know that for once in their life they can speak back to them. They've been dominated for so long, and all of a sudden they can speak and say, and ask that person, you know, why did you do it? Well, you know, why did you treat me this way? And then, you know, it sort of brings them closer together too, when we can sit there and work together with them, because a circle doesn't just end at the circle. We still keep going after the circle, myself and the project officer, with the perpetrator as well as with the victim. Excuse me. And that's what circle's all about. It's not only just caring about them in that circle, it's caring about them after circle.
Well, the elders that sit in the circle, they know the background of the families quite well. And the offenders, they know who they are and where they come from and what background they've got. And why it works for us is simple. We get right down to the bottom of it, of what they do. But sometimes you don't know what they do after. They don't know what they do after times, and this is the best way for us is to get right down to the bottom of it. And when you get the right people in the circle, you get the elders. You get 2 men and 2 women. They're associated with the circle, and they've been there and done that through life, and they know what's going on with the young people. And the young people sometimes, as I said you before, they don't know what's going on in their lives, and it makes it a lot easier for us to get right to the bottom of it. Well, it's all about respect. Before they come into the circle sentencing, it's a newfound life for them. Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, of their elders and the Aboriginal people around them that's a lot older than what they are. And you see the turnaround once they come out of court, and you sentence them, and the sentence is carried out, and all the finalisation of it all is all written down, and their solicitor will be there, and we'll ask him if that suits them, and you'll get them coming out of there. You'll get them there hugging you and you know, shaking your hand, and when you're outside, sometimes when you get outside out into the streets, and you're in the streets, and they'll walk up to you. I say, thank you, Uncle, for doing that. You've shown me a new way to life than the old one. And I said, are you going to go down that path? And they said, and I've known 3 or 4 of them now, maybe half a dozen or more, that I've sentenced, and I give them a severely good hard sentence, and they've changed their life right around there. With their women, they've apologised to them, they're back with them, and they've got a little family, and now they're working, and the grog and the drugs, they lead them wide, they make a wide beeline away from them, and they're talking to people in the streets and saying this circle sentencing is the best thing that ever happened in this town for Aboriginal people.